They say betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It rewrites your entire life story. I never imagined that the woman I built my world around would be the very one to destroy it. For years, I lived under the illusion of love, loyalty, and trust, until one day, I held a baby in my arms who carried the undeniable proof that my wife had been living a double life. A baby girl whose skin told a truth more painful than any words could ever reveal. This isn't just a story about infidelity. It's about deception, humiliation, and the strength it takes to rise after your world shatters. My name is Daniel, and for most of my life, I thought I understood what it meant to be a good man. I grew up in a small suburban town where values like honesty, commitment, and family weren't just words. They were promises you lived by. My father worked long hours at the factory, and my mother sacrificed her own dreams to raise me and my two sisters. Watching them, I learned that marriage was supposed to be a partnership built on trust and sacrifice. When I met Emily, I thought I had found exactly that. She was beautiful in a subtle way. Kind eyes, a gentle laugh, and a smile that seemed to erase all of life's heaviness. We met during college when everything was still uncertain, but one thing became crystal clear to me. She was the one. I worked 2 jobs, studied late nights, and saved every extra dollar so we could build a future together. And when I finally married her, it felt like every sacrifice had been worth it. Our early years were simple but sweet. We rented a modest apartment, shared late-night meals of instant noodles, and celebrated tiny victories like buying our first second-hand car or paying off a semester's worth of loans. Emily worked as a nurse, and I had just started my career in finance. We didn't have much, but what we had felt like enough. Or at least I thought it did. Over time, life settled into a routine. I worked long hours, climbing the corporate ladder so we could eventually buy a home of our own. Emily encouraged me, told me she was proud of me, and I believed her. I wanted to give her everything she deserved: stability, security, and comfort. But in chasing that dream, I never realized I was slowly drifting away from the reality of our marriage. The first cracks appeared so faintly that I brushed them off. Emily started going out with friends more often, staying late after work, and excusing it with phrases like, "It was a busy night at the hospital." I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. She had always been my safe place, the person I thought would never betray me. When she told me she was pregnant, I was ecstatic. I imagined late nights rocking our child to sleep, family vacations, and watching our baby take its first steps. It felt like all the sacrifices had led us here, to the family we had always dreamed of. Emily smiled through her pregnancy, though I noticed her moods shifted more than usual. She seemed distracted, restless, almost as if she were carrying a secret I couldn't reach. But I convinced myself it was just hormones, just the stress of becoming a mother. Everyone around us congratulated us, calling us the perfect couple. My parents were overjoyed. Her family showered us with love, and I walked into that hospital room on the day of the delivery thinking I was about to meet the greatest gift of my life. Little did I know, it would be the day everything I believed in collapsed. The night Emily went into labor, I rushed her to the hospital, hands trembling on the steering wheel. My heart raced with excitement and fear, not for myself, but for her and the tiny life we were about to bring into the world. Hours passed as she endured the pain, and when the doctor finally placed the baby into my arms, I felt the air leave my lungs. But not because of joy. The child I held, my supposed daughter, was beautiful, yes, but she was also undeniably not mine. She had features that made it clear. This was not the child of 2 white parents. Her skin was darker, her hair a different texture, her eyes carrying a story that could never be explained away by genetics. At first, I stood frozen, my mind desperately searching for an answer. Maybe it was a mistake? Maybe they had handed me the wrong baby? But no, the tag around her tiny wrist bore Emily's name. She was Emily's baby. In that moment, my world cracked open. Emily avoided my gaze, tears streaming down her face, but not the tears of joy I had expected. They were tears of guilt, of secrets finally breaking free. The days that followed were a blur of confusion, humiliation, and betrayal. Emily confessed only what I already knew, that the baby wasn't mine. She wouldn't tell me who the father was, wouldn't even look me in the eye. It wasn't just an affair. It was a complete dismantling of everything we had built. The whispers started almost immediately. Family members exchanged uneasy glances. Friends who once praised our marriage now avoided the subject entirely. I became the man everyone pitied, the man whose wife had cheated so blatantly that even the child carried proof. And worse than the betrayal was the unspoken judgment. The way people looked at me as if I had been blind, as if I should have seen it coming. Nights became unbearable. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage. Every late night at work, every unexplained absence, every smile she gave that wasn't meant for me. And the cruelest part? I had loved her so completely that I never even questioned her. My loyalty had been my blindfold. The emotional toll was crushing. I struggled at work, unable to focus. I avoided family gatherings, knowing the questions and the silent stares would follow. Even walking through the neighborhood felt heavy, as if everyone knew my shame. Emily tried to talk to me, but her words were empty, powerless against the truth that screamed louder than anything she could say. And yet I couldn't just shut it all off. This was the woman I had built my life around. The woman I had promised forever to. How do you reconcile that the person you trusted most has destroyed you in the most public, undeniable way possible? The breaking point came one evening, about a month after the baby was born. Emily had been trying to carry on as though nothing had changed, tending to the baby, cooking dinners, pretending we were still a family. But I couldn't play along anymore. The sight of the baby, innocent as she was a constant reminder of Emily's betrayal. I finally confronted her, not with shouting, but with the kind of calm that comes only when your soul has been emptied of everything. I asked her why she had chosen to deceive me, why she had let me dream of a future that was never real. Her answer was silence. She lowered her eyes, her hands trembling, but no explanation came, and that silence was louder than any confession could have been. The climax of betrayal isn't always a fiery argument or dramatic revelation. Sometimes, it's the quiet acceptance that the life you built is gone. That realization hit me like a tidal wave. I walked into our bedroom, packed a single bag, and left. Not because I didn't love her anymore, but because I loved myself enough to know I couldn't stay. The drive to my parents' house was a blur, tears clouding my vision. When I arrived, my father's eyes, once filled with pride, now held the weight of disappointment, not in me, but in the injustice of it all. My mother held me like I was a child again, whispering words of comfort I barely heard. It was the lowest point of my life. Everything I had worked for, my marriage, my dignity, my sense of self, had been stripped away, and all because of the person I trusted most. Time doesn't erase betrayal, but it does dull the edges of the wound. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding myself. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and slowly began to rediscover who I was outside of the marriage that had defined me. Emily and I eventually divorced. I couldn't raise a child that was the product of deception, not because the baby was at fault, but because every glance at her would be a reminder of the life I lost. I made peace with that decision, though it haunted me at night. What I learned through it all was simple but powerful. Love without trust is just an illusion. You can give someone everything, your loyalty, your sacrifices, your heart, and still, it won't be enough if they're determined to betray you. But betrayal doesn't define you. It doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the painful beginning of a new one. A reminder that even when others break their promises, you still have the power to keep your own, to yourself. So if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had your world shattered by someone you trusted, remember this. You are not the betrayal. You are the survivor of it. And maybe the real question isn't why they betrayed you, but why you stayed so long in a love that didn't honor you.